Hello, so we are going to talk about the role of the government, building institutions, and structural reforms. So, as you can see, we have segregated the countries between developed and developing. So, the countries which are developed are France, Canada, Japan, UAE, and the USA. And the countries which are developing are Peru, Lebanon, Colombia, Egypt, and South Africa. The indicators we have chosen for the economic indicators, it is the GNI per capita and the Gini index. And for institutional indicators, it is the political stability and absence of violence, government effectiveness, and control of corruption.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to start by looking at the economic indicators of the developed countries that we chose. So the first index is the GNI per capita, which is the gross national income of a country. And depending on the GNI, countries are divided into four categories: low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, and high income group. And if a country's GNI is greater than $13,205, it's classified into the high income group. So the countries that we chose are well above this benchmark with a minimum GNI of $41,770 for the UAE and $70,930 for the USA. And this shows that these developed countries have a high standard of living and have more resources available for their citizens, such as education and health. The second index is the Gini index, which measures the degree of inequality in the distribution of family income in a country. And the more equal the income distribution is, the lower the index is. And we can see that the Gini indexes for these countries aren't really high, with the lowest being 26 for the UAE and the highest 39.7 for the USA.
Now, we are going to look at the institutional indicators of the developed countries. Based on these indicators, levels, it can be inferred that France, UAE, USA, Canada, and Japan share certain common characteristics in terms of political stability, government effectiveness, and control of corruption. All five countries have a relatively stable political environment and a low level of violence. This indicates that these countries have well-functioning institutions, strong rule of law, and effective conflict resolution mechanism. However, an average score of 7.4 suggests that there's still room for improvement in terms of political stability. Also, these five developed countries have an exceptionally high level of government effectiveness, which implies that their governments are efficient, competent, and capable of formulating and implementing sound policies. The high score of 90 indicates that these countries are among the global leaders in terms of government performance. France, UAE, USA, Canada, and Japan have a strong commitment to fighting corruption, as demonstrated by their high average score of 87.6. And this suggests that these countries have effective anti-corruption policies, robust legal framework, and high levels of transparency in their public sectors. It is important to note that the observation suggests a strong correlation between government effectiveness and control of corruption. This implies that these countries have successfully managed to create an environment where corruption is less likely to thrive thanks to efficient governments and well-functioning institutions.
Now, the developing countries' economic indicators. Of the developing countries that we chose, South Africa, Colombia, and Peru are all upper middle income countries, with them having a GNI per capita above 4,046 USD. Lebanon and Egypt are both lower middle income countries, having a GNI per capita between 1,036 and 4,045 USD. Lebanon used to be an upper middle income country, but has now fallen to the lower middle income category, having its GNI per capita drop from 5,501 in 2021 to 3,450 in 2020. Amongst these developing countries, Egypt has the lowest Gini coefficient, standing at 31.9, and South Africa has the highest at 63. Despite South Africa having the highest GNI per capita, amongst these countries, income is still unequally distributed in the country, which is one of the main issues it has been facing in its recent years.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the developing countries' institutional indicators. So the countries which are developing are South Africa, Lebanon, Colombia, Egypt, and Peru. So we can see that they have low indicator levels, and also the average political stability and absence of violence is 19.1, and the average government effectiveness is 35.6, and average control of corruption is 33.3. Uncertainty for investments, although there are these uncertainties, Peru and South Africa have made significant strides towards economic development and has a favorable environment for foreign investment.
In conclusion, we can see differences between developed and developing countries and how there's a strong positive correlation between economic development and institutional development. On one hand, developed countries typically have a higher income classification and GNI per capita, reflecting a more prosperous economy and higher living standards, and usually have a lower Gini index, indicating a more equal distribution of wealth and resources. Furthermore, they tend to have lower levels of corruption, stronger political stability, and less state fragility, which contributes to a stable and favorable environment for business and investment. On the other hand, developing countries often face challenges in terms of lower income classification and GNI per capita, resulting in less prosperous economies and lower living standards. They might face higher Gini index, pointing to income inequality and limited economic opportunities. Developing countries are also more likely to struggle with corruption, political instability, and state fragility, which hinder the development of strong institutional framework, create uncertainty for investors, and perpetuate a vicious cycle of underdevelopment.